Most people think they fail because they are not smart enough or not talented enough. But the real truth is much harder to accept, because most people slowly lose control of their own mind without even realizing it, and this usually starts with small habits, like checking their phone again and again, comparing themselves to others, and feeling like they are always behind. And that is exactly what happened to Daniel, a young boy who once had big dreams and a strong belief that he could become a great writer one day. Daniel lived in a quiet suburban neighborhood where nothing much ever changed, with the same streets, the same small grocery store on the corner, and the same little coffee shop where people sat with their laptops pretending to be busy. And in that simple life, Daniel had something special, because he loved writing stories that felt real and honest. And his teachers used to tell him that he had a gift, while his parents believed that one day he would do something big with his talent. In those days, everything felt possible for him, because he had clear goals, strong motivation, and the kind of focus that made hours feel like minutes when he was writing. But things started to change when he created a social media account to share his work, because at first it felt amazing when people liked his posts and left kind comments, and it gave him a small boost of confidence that made him feel like he was finally being seen. But slowly, without him noticing, his world started to shift, because the platform began showing him other writers who looked more successful, more skilled, and more popular. And every time he saw their posts, with thousands of likes and comments, he felt a strange pressure building inside him, like he was not good enough, and that he was falling behind in a race he did not even know he had joined. At first, he told himself it was just motivation, and that he could learn from them, but over time it turned into constant comparison, and instead of writing his own ideas, he started spending more time scrolling, studying how others wrote and trying to copy their style, because he thought that maybe that was the only way to succeed. But deep inside, he knew something was wrong. That was the moment when everything started to feel heavy, because writing, which once felt exciting and free, now felt like pressure and fear. And every time he sat down with his notebook, he felt stuck, like his mind was too crowded with other people's voices. And instead of creating something real, he kept thinking about what would get more likes or what would impress others. His father noticed the change one evening while Daniel was sitting at the table pretending to work, and in a calm voice he asked why he had not written anything new in weeks. And Daniel quickly replied that he had been working. But even as he said it, he knew it was not true, because most of his time had been spent scrolling and overthinking instead of actually writing. Weeks turned into months, and the deadline for his college application came closer. And even though he knew his work was not honest or original anymore, he still sent his portfolio, hoping that somehow it would be enough. But deep down he already felt unsure, like he had lost something important along the way. When the rejection letter arrived, it did not feel like a shock, because a part of him was already expecting it, but it still left a heavy feeling inside him, like a quiet confirmation that something had gone wrong. And that night he sat alone at his table with his notebook open in front of him, not trying to write, but just sitting there in silence. For the first time in a long time, he allowed himself to think honestly about what had happened, and he realized that the problem was not his talent, because he still had the ability to write, but the real problem was that his mind had become restless and distracted, always jumping from one thing to another, and always focused on what others were doing instead of what he truly wanted to create. The next day he decided to do something different, and instead of trying to fix everything on his own, he went to meet Michael, a former journalist who now worked in a small office near the edge of town, and many people said that talking to him helped them see things more clearly. So Daniel walked in feeling nervous but hopeful. Michael listened carefully as Daniel explained everything, from the scrolling habit to the comparison and the rejection. And after hearing him out, Michael picked up a simple pen from his desk and asked Daniel to look at it closely, not quickly, but with full attention. And as Daniel observed the small details like the scratches and the faded color, he realized how rarely he focused like this anymore. Michael then explained that Daniel's real problem was not lack of skill, but lack of focus, because his mind had become too busy chasing other people's success. And he told him something simple but powerful, which was that a distracted mind copies while a focused mind creates. And if Daniel wanted to improve, he needed to take control of his attention again. He gave Daniel 4 simple rules that sounded easy but required real effort to follow, which were to create before consuming anything online, to bring his mind back every time it wandered, to compare himself only to his past self, and to protect his focus like it was the most valuable thing he had. When Daniel returned home, he decided to take it seriously. So the next morning he woke up and started writing before touching his phone, and even though it felt uncomfortable at first, and his mind kept pulling him toward distractions, he kept bringing it back again and again, like training a muscle that had been weak for too long. Over time, something started to change because his thoughts became clearer. His writing felt more real, and the pressure slowly faded away. And instead of trying to impress others, he began to enjoy the process again, which made his work feel alive in a way it had not felt for months. After several months of consistent effort, he entered a regional writing competition with 3 pieces that were completely his own, and even though he did not win first place, he received second place along with a note from the judges saying that his voice was strong and original, and that he should never lose it. That moment meant more to him than any number of likes or followers, because it proved that he had found his way back. And later that day, as he walked into a small grocery store and bought a simple notebook for $8, he felt a quiet sense of pride, because that small purchase represented a fresh start and a commitment to keep going. The truth is that success does not come from one big moment or one perfect opportunity, but from small decisions made every day, especially the decision to focus, to stay present, and to keep creating even when it feels hard. Because when you learn to control your mind, you slowly take back control of your life. Success isn't about the giant leap. It's about the shaky first step. If this story moved you, there is another one on the channel about a student who kept failing again and again, but discovered a simple habit that changed everything, and you should watch that one next.